We are absolutely, positively uncomfortable on this week's episode of Implicit Bias. And by uncomfortable, I mean in a bad way. I also actually mean it in a really good way. I'm your host, Kevon Bordelon. Welcome into another episode of Implicit Bias. And this week, we are going to challenge you, our listeners, to be uncomfortable with us. Now, what do I mean by that? Why should we be uncomfortable? My wife, the better half of me, the part that I married up to, has a very true saying. And she'll probably actually like that I give her credit for this because this is hers. And all too often, we don't necessarily give credit where credit is due, but we try to do that every week on Implicit Bias. So this week, I'm going to give credit to Mrs. Implicit Bias. She has a great saying. A comfort zone is a great place to live, but nothing ever grows there. And she's absolutely right. That, unfortunately, is also true when you get really, really, really uncomfortable then, that maybe you do actually get up and do something. Tell you a quick story and maybe kind of how we got to where we got here, if you know what I mean. The snowpacalypse, and I mean like snowpack, P-A-C-K, lips, L-I-P-S. The snowpacalypse basically wiped out Lafayette, Louisiana. Oh, in that second, third week of January. It's been nuts. Matter of fact, Acadiana, the entire area, is pretty much still recovering from a blizzard, which is, to be fair to say, highly uncommon and unlikely. Not impossible, but highly improbable in southern Louisiana. Well, it happened. 8 to 10 inches of snow in a 12 to 14 hour period. And let's just say that Cajuns can deal with a lot. 4-degree temperatures overnight with 8 to 10 inches of snow on rooftops and ice in pipes. We'll live, but we're not going to be comfortable. So yeah, on my street, 10 homes, copper pipes, popped like bad balloons. And that means water in homes, which means that, yeah, things for a lot of people have not been great for the last couple of weeks. But in reality, if you take a step back and you really look at it, it's really just an inconvenience. People still have roofs over their head. Most of them have water back by now, if not all of them having water back by now. Power went out briefly, but was never really an issue. So at the end of the day, we are stuck being really, really, really uncomfortable. But as I said, it's not a great place to be. Why? And maybe this goes back to the biblical reason. Because if there's one thing that Jesus never promised us in this life, it's that we wouldn't suffer. As a matter of fact, the one thing that he did promise, to take the affirmative of that statement, it's that we would. But it's in that suffering that we grow. It's in that suffering that we learn. It's in that suffering that we get better. So it hasn't necessarily been fun tearing out carpet and cutting holes in sheetrock to have pipes fixed and tearing rooms apart and moving furniture from room to room and trying to play like an endless game of musical chairs with all these different things that you've got in your house and trying to figure out where it goes. But at the end of the day, you get a lot accomplished. At the end of the day, you get to all those things that you said, man, I need to go purge that room out, and you just never quite get to it. At the end of the day, you figure out that when we are comfortable, when we are fat and happy, that's usually when the bad things happen to us. So don't get like me, fat and happy. Be uncomfortable and learn to be comfortable with it. That's what we're going to do as we continue to try to solve the problems of the world on this week's Implicit Bias. We've got more weekly whiskey for you. We've got a wonderful private barrel from Elijah Craig, from one of our weekly whiskey sponsors. Here somewhere in downtown Lafayette, Louisiana. We've got more coming at you from the Mr. Lester's TSPL, the Top Secret Podcast Lair. We are double fisting it with our priests this week, so they're going to keep us as Catholic and as Christian as we can be, which means we need it. And hopefully, we'll have more for you when you come back with more of this week's episode of Implicit Bias. Implicit Bias is back on the air. We've got more weekly whiskey for you, and man, do we have a crew for you here in the Mr. Lester's Top Secret Podcast Lair, located somewhere in downtown Lafayette. We're going to get to our Elijah Craig private barrel from Nunu's Market in Youngsville, Louisiana. They'll also probably have it at their Scott location, their Milton location, their Maurice locations, but that's going to be the primary place to find it in just a minute. First, I want to introduce to you the crew we've got here in the Mr. Lester's TSPL this week. Let's start in the chair like mine. He's used to being at the bar. We've let him graduate to the adult chair. Renee Girard, it's a pleasure to have you sitting across from me.
I'm not at the kids' table anymore.
No.
I got the adult comfy chair now.
It's not that you're not at the kids' table. You're no longer at the bar, which means it's harder for you to reach those pores. Maybe there's a reason for that. Anyway.
I don't know. It's right here now.
Yeah, but you got to go across the microphone. If you
yeah.
move the microphone, Tug is going to come get you.
Yeah, I can't touch the microphone. Tug put it there and I can't touch it.
Yeah, you don't want that to happen.
No, I don't want that to happen.
All right, we are actually double collaring it at the bar for this week's episode. And I noticed Father Joe has already popped the collar and it's off. We have always said that we like to have a priest on the show every so often because we got to have somebody keeping us Christian, keeping us Catholic, because God knows that we have a hard enough time doing that on our own. So at the bar, we've got two very special guests. This is the first time that we've actually sat two priests at the bar because, you know, wherever there are two priests, there's a fifth. On this one, there's multiple fifths. So let's start with Father Taj Glaude at the bar. Father, it's a pleasure to have you at the Mr. Lester's bar.
And it's very good to be here again and for the first time in the lair.
Yeah, I was about to say, you've been to the lair before, but this is the first time you've been here since we built the bar, since we put in the chairs. What do you think?
Yes. I'm loving this.
Is this something you could do on a weekly basis? I mean...
Oh, I could do this every day. Yeah, I could do this every single day.
Cheers to you, Father. Cheers to you. That is Father Taj Glaude. And then Father Joe Campion, also joining us here in the Mr. Lester's TSPL. He's not a stranger to this particular room. He's been here before. He was actually here on our live election watch party in November of 2024.
That's it. Last time I was here.
Is that the last time you were here?
I vaguely remember that.
Yeah.
Yes, I do.
So, okay, if you vaguely remember that, it's been a little wild and woolly since that last visit. I mean, it's been, you could almost say warp speed, pun intended, since then.
Been great, though, don't you think?
Yeah,
Yes,
the
transition is very welcomed. Yes,
we're going to talk about a lot of that on this week's episode. Before we do, though, Father Taj is partying over it.
to the YMCA.
Before we do, let's go ahead and talk about this particular weekly whiskey. 121.2 on the proof. So 60.06% alcohol by volume, if I can still math right now, even though I haven't tasted this yet. This is our Elijah Craig private barrel from Nunu's. Now, we actually also have somebody here in the Mr. Lester's TSPL. You can't see him, even though we got to get that we camera in here. Tug, I'm gonna beg, I'm gonna plead. I know we've got an extra camera. We got to figure out a place for it because do we really have to? We do have to see Walker. I'm gonna apologize to you now for what's gonna happen when you can see Walker, but we're gonna need to see him. So
you're gonna regret it.
I'm telling you,
you're gonna regret it.
I know.
You'll get letters.
Oh. As if we haven't already.
Yes, I know.
Anyway, Walker, I'm curious as to what you think. We're going to let you go first on this particular Elijah Craig 121.2 single barrel private barrel.
This one is really good. I don't think it drinks like it's 121. I think it drinks way softer.
Oh, so you think that this is really smooth?
Yes.
For 121 proof, over 60% alcohol by volume.
Yes, very very smooth. I just like the way it flows, the taste of it. I'm a big fan.
Well, and Walker's a big fan. We should all be a big fan. So, Renee, let's go to you. I'm reading that this is 10 years old. Is that what I'm seeing on this, Renee?
Yep.
Okay, so there is
Yep.
an age statement. It's 10 years.
10 years.
And I have to say, Elijah Craig, especially when you get to that 8 to 10 year mark, they usually do a fantastic job.
I don't think I've had an Elijah Craig that I did not like. I mean, they make an excellent whiskey, and then this being a barrel pick, 10-year-old, man, I like this stuff.
Okay.
It's
so,
very smooth. It, like Walker says, it does not drink like a 121. It drinks more like 100.
So here's the interesting thing. I actually have the neck pour. I poured the very first pour out of the bottle into this glass, just took my first sip. There is no way this drinks like 121.
No,
There's just no way.
no.
I'll get to kind of what I see off of it and the flavors that I get in a minute. But first, we got to go to the bar because we know they won't lie. Well, we don't know that they won't lie because priests aren't perfect, but we kind of give them the benefit of the doubt. So let's go to the bar and see. Father Joe, the microphone's pointing to you first. So I'm curious as to your take on this Elijah Craig.
I agree with Walker. I find that this is, first of all, the aroma is good. It's palatable. It's smooth. And I really like it. Now, Father Taj over here is more of an expert in guns and whiskey than I am, but I like this. I got to say, it's to me, it's very smooth, like you said.
So we always come up with a nickname, and we don't necessarily have one for you. I thought about giving you Holier Than Thou, but that's just kind of bad, maybe. I don't know. Father Glaude, you kind of
talk about lying.
you gave me one for Father Glaude, and I was kind of thinking this. I think we might call him like PPP. Like, remember the old PPP program? We might call him PPP, but he's the pistol packing priest.
Yeah.
Right?
Or some of my parishioners call me Father Glock.
Father Glock. Okay, yeah. Well, we could have a lot of fun with it. I could really tiptoe on the line, and we could come up with, say, you are the OPP, the Opelousas pistol packing priest, and OPP could be your nickname, but that might be perceived the wrong way. I'm just saying. Because, you down with OPP would have a whole different meaning. A whole different meaning.
I was 8 years old when that came out.
Oh, dear Lord.
I know I'm showing my age.
Do you know how old that makes me feel? Because I was in college when that came out. All right, so Father Glaude, what do you think about this Elijah Craig?
On the nose, I get a lot of smokiness in a caramel. But once it's on the tongue, the caramel flavor comes out more. Now, Elijah Craig is one of my favorites.
Okay.
It's something I'll always have in my bar. But I've always liked Elijah Craig, but this, I gotta seek this out. This is fantastic. Like I said, it's really smooth for a 100 and
121.
121 proof. This, I wouldn't even say this drinks like 100. This drink drinks like a usual 80 proof. That's how smooth it is.
It really is that smooth. I have to give it credit. Here's where I'm gonna squirrel here with everybody in the room. I like the aroma off of it. It gives you that Elijah Craig profile that you typically expect. It's got a nice aroma to it. I get nothing on the front of this. It is really odd. Like, it makes me wonder if I've got a nerve block going on somewhere, because on the front of the palate, on the front of the tongue, I get nothing, but I get a real long, oily finish to the point of, yeah, Father Glaude, I think you're right. To me, this almost drinks like an 80 proof. This almost drinks like there's almost no alcohol in it for a whiskey. It is just that easy to drink. It's dangerous at this proof at 121.2. Mark my words. Walker will be puking in the bathroom before the end of the show because he's just going to keep going. And you're going to ask me how I know. It's because I've seen it before. Walker, am I lying?
You are not lying.
But
I wasn't
That's
throwing
what I
up
thought.
from a whiskey that was on here.
Correct.
At the
You were
time.
correct. You were throwing up from a whiskey the night before. Yeah. Yeah, it was interesting to see. Anyway,
I don't think that was a whiskey though. I think that was multiple whiskeys.
no,
that he
actually,
got.
no. That night he sat down and drank like 3/4 of a bottle of one high proof rye that we've had here
Really?
on the show that he really liked. And
Yeah.
anyway, this Elijah Craig, I could absolutely see being that dangerous
Oh yeah.
because
Yeah.
I mean, you take a sip and you're like, there's no liquor on it. I don't get a ton of caramel.
It,
I get licorice off of this.
well,
I
and
get oily, deep licorice, and not the front palate licorice that makes you kind of pucker,
right.
but I get that back oiliness of the licorice that you expect.
It doesn't. Well, it doesn't attack your mouth
No.
with the alcohol
No.
and usually that's what happens to me. I get that burn that I just like. Ooh, this is very, very smooth. I like this one.
The beauty of this, and maybe now that it's opening up a little, I'm starting to get a little on the front of the palate, a little on the front of the tongue,
It's not a lot.
but it's
a lot.
not heavy there.
No.
It is light. I love the finish on this because you can take a sip and you can enjoy that sip. It's the everlasting gobstopper of bottles of whiskey because you take that sip and it sits with you.
Yep.
And it feels like it sits with you like the Sandlot, like forever. And it's a good thing. It's a really good thing how enjoyable this is. The licorice isn't quite my bourbony McBourbon that I like on the show.
Yeah.
It doesn't quite hit those notes, but it's still one that I taste it and I'm like, it's different.
And see, I'm not a licorice. I don't like licorice.
Neither do I.
But now that you said it, I am picking up a little bit, but it's not obtrusive to me. It's not something that I'm like, ugh. It's tolerable, very tolerable.
The only
but
way-
I get my favorite word. I do get some caramel in it.
The only way, it's not my fault you can't speak English. The
Yeah.
only way, or apparently read, Caramel. Anyway, the licorice that I get on this is very much, as
Very-
you would think, high-end licorice. It is
and
not,
it's subtle. Very
yes,
subtle.
there's
You know,
a
it's not
subtlety
like-
to it. That's a good word.
What's the
I'm amazed you know
the
it.
black yeah. What's the black rope licorice that you get that it looks great, but when you go to eat it, it's like, oh, it's just too much. This ain't it.
I thought you didn't like licorice.
I don't.
Then how do you know that there's this black rope licorice
Because
that
I
you don't
keep
like?
trying it because it
Well,
looks
then-
so good to eat, and I go, ugh. Just like the cherry one, the red one. I
Renee-
don't like those either.
Renee, you were that kid, weren't you?
Oh yeah,
You
I gotta
were that
try it.
kid. You were that kid when someone said, "Oh, this is terrible. Try it." You went, "All right," and
Yep,
took it. Yeah,
exactly.
that's what I figured.
It's
Yeah.
because it's black, isn't it?
Wait,
I'm sorry, I couldn't resist.
no, actually, Father, you know what? It's probably because he had a quota. I'm sorry. No, and we're gonna talk about that because that's gonna tie into, and I know that might get me in trouble. No, that's gonna tie into. So Father, do I get absolution from that? And do we get to ring the bell? I think you're about to spit whiskey through your nose, aren't you?
Yeah.
No, I'm just trying to keep from laughing.
So we're going to talk about that story later on the show where the affirmative action executive order has been rescinded, right? That's a whole different story. We're going to talk about that. That's why I brought that in. I was like, oh, this is going to tie into another story. So yeah, the cancelers out there. Sorry. Yeah. Thanks, Father Blood. Okay. So we have a job to do here. And I know people here in the TSPL are going to be so upset. The box drop, what would you pay? Championship belt chain is in the shop getting an upgrade, which means nobody has to wear it this week.
They're
Again,
adding more layers of lead to it to make it heavier.
well, actually, I think they're trying to use depleted uranium so that it speeds up the lead absorption into the system
I
and
got
gives you
you.
that little bit of radiation poisoning as well. I'm kidding. So it's not here, but we're still going to play What Would You Pay? And we're going to rate this on the Morse Whiskey Rating Code, even though Caleb Morse, who is at SHOT Show this week, not here to record with us, Caleb Morse is not here. We are still going to play What Would You Pay and rate it on the Morse Whiskey Rating Code. Is it a red? I wouldn't drink it even if it was free. Is it a yellow? I would only drink it if it was free. Is it a green? I would buy this. Or is it a blue? I would seek this out. Now, before we give ratings and before we start guessing pricing, the one thing that I have to call out here, for those who might be watching and are new to the whiskey bourbon world, private barrel, single barrel. What does that mean, Renee?
Well, that means that it was a barrel that, in this case, Nunu's picked this barrel. They sampled different barrels and go, yes, I want that one. And all the whiskeys that they have that label on came from that barrel.
And it also means that once it's gone,
It's gone. Never.
you'll
Now,
never get this. You'll never get this exact
You might get
proof
something
bottle
similar,
flavor profile again. You might get something similar,
but it's not this one.
correct? Which means it becomes
And
Unobtainable.
normally when they do a barrel like that, they will get probably
anywhere. Well, it depends. At 10 years, you're
Oh, you're
probably
gonna get
getting
less.
180 to 200 bottles at
Maybe.
most.
Yeah, it depends on the evaporation in the
Yep.
in the barrel because it's sitting. You got the angel share.
In other words, if you have the ability to get to snow-covered Lafayette, Louisiana, no, we're not still snow-covered now, but if you have the ability to get to Lafayette, Louisiana, and you want this whiskey, you better get it while you can. So let's start at the bar. And Father Glaude, it's pointed towards you. Where do you rate this on the Morse Whiskey rating code? Is it a red, a yellow, a green, or a blue? And what would you pay?
I was actually kind of torn with having it as either a green or a blue
Okay.
because this is not something I would think to seek out, one, and two, that you can only get it at one place. But I would definitely put it as a blue. I would
Okay.
definitely go and get this. As far as price, I would probably say, I'm going to take a ballpark, say 65.
$65. All right, Father Joe.
I was originally going to go green until you said it was a select barrel. And then I said, no, it would be something I would buy.
Okay.
Okay.
Well, so green would be something you would buy, but blue would be something you would
I
seek
go
out.
would seek out.
Oh,
yes.
okay. So you're going to seek this out.
I would say blue.
Okay. So we have 2 blue votes.
Yeah. What would it sell for?
What would you pay for it? Not necessarily what do you think it would sell for. What would you pay
What
for the
would I pay
liquor
for it?
that's in the bottle? Yep.
I think I would say 53.
53. All right, Walker. Let's go to you.
Definite blue.
Oh, definite blue. So we officially have a blue because we have 3 blue votes out of 5 votes here in the room. What would you pay?
70.
70. Okay. Renee.
I already gave it a blue, and I'm guessing, knowing this, 85.
So I'm going to be the one that squirrels here. I'm going to call this a green. It's not quite, it just doesn't lack that little bit of special to me to make it a blue, but it's really close. This is a really good bottle of whiskey. It's a definite green for me, but a 4-1 split decision. I'm apparently the one who's wrong, and I'm okay with that. As far as what would you pay, the winner, remember this when you go to think about bottles of whiskey. Think about the number of years that the whiskey has been aging and typically go $10 per year. This is a 10-year-old whiskey. The winner is Renee. This is $81.99 a bottle. Typically, if you were to find this, it'd be a $100 bottle. Father Joe, real quick, we got to take a break.
I was just going to ask if it was in the Biden economy or the Trump economy.
You know what? We're just a few days in, and apparently he's fixing already because it's not 100, it's $81.99, and it's our implicit bias. We'll be back with more right after this break as we dive into the stories and solve the problems of the world one weekly whiskey at a time. Implicit bias solves the problems of the world 1 or 2 or 15 weekly whiskeys at a time. I'm your host, Kevon Bordelon. Welcome back into the Mr. Lester's top secret podcast lair located somewhere in downtown Lafayette, Louisiana. We got a great crew for you here this week. Louisiana's only certified master tobacconist, Renee Girard. you know, he was telling us about the Amazon Basin cigar a little earlier this month. And I don't know if after we got all this snow, if maybe there's an Atchafalaya Basin cigar or if that changes anything, Renee.
You wouldn't want to smoke an Atchafalaya Basin cigar.
No,
That just,
no.
no.
No, because somebody would just call it the smoke dat. Anyway, at the bar, we are double fisting it at the bar. And I don't mean alcohol. I mean priests. Father Taj Glaude on your left on the screen and Father Joe Campion on your right. We will let them introduce themselves again in just a minute. And of course, the implicit bias pledge, who's actually should be approaching Hell Week, Renee.
Oh, yeah.
And I think for Hell Week, I have an idea of what we're going to do. We might need to have more seats in the top secret podcast layer. We're going to figure it out, but I'll remind you because this like just dawned on me. I love when I get ideas during the show and I can't completely talk about it because I really want to embarrass Walker. So what we're going to do is we're going to probably do a Hell Week show for Walker coming up soon. Aren't you excited, Walker?
I see the anticipation on his face.
I can't wait.
All right, so let's get to really kind of what's been going on. And I don't mean like the Marvin Gaye song, What's Been Going On. I mean like what's been going on because, man, you get an executive order. 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 We have not seen, and I do like this because this has actually been said by our current president, that this administration is moving at an unprecedented speed with regards to everything they have been doing since they got in office. This episode is being recorded a week and a half since the inauguration. And oh my goodness, you name it, it's been happening coming out of the White House. So, and what I really want to talk about is the first one, and we're going to start here, and then we're going to go to the other one that we teased in the last section of the show. The first one that's really, I mean, within an hour, we were seeing this one get implemented was if you are a criminal and you are here illegally, you have to go back.
You know, and that's something that amazes me because when you cross the border without stopping at customs, you know, you pass, go and collect your $200.
Try like 6,000
Well,
a
but
month.
if you cross the border without reporting, aren't you breaking a law which makes you illegal?
So, yes, you are technically a criminal.
Right there, you're a criminal.
Here's, and this is, I knew we were going to go here, and I'm so glad we've got two priests here because here's where I'm trying to balance out the moral, right? The God's law versus man's law of this. And it's this. We have always been a country that if you want to be here and you want to work and you want to contribute, we want you here. Whether you declared yourself at the border or not, do we need to come up with a faster way to make you an actual citizen? I believe we do. But if you want to come here and freeload, if you want to come here and sit in a hotel in a major city to the tune of $350 a night and get $6,000 a month, which actually has been documented, please don't believe me on this. Please go look this up for yourself. If illegal immigrants were getting this kind of benefits, because they were, but don't believe me. I really don't want you to. Go look it up. If you want to come here and you want to hurt people and you want to steal from people and you want to rape and you want to murder, if you want to break into Joe Burrow's house so you can take his stuff that's not yours, at some point we have to draw the line. Where does God's law really meet man's law? And that is why we send it to the bar with our priests. Nothing like giving you guys a great conundrum, right? They say setting up for failure. What's that saying? Okay, Father. Yeah, Father Taj, you're up first. What are your thoughts on this?
Well, first of all, let me say it's about time.
Agreed.
Now, that being said, if I'm sure we would all agree here, if we had $1 for every time we heard, oh, well, we should be welcoming the migrants, we'd all be a room full of millionaires here. Yes, like you said, if you want to come build a better life for yourself, then come. But as a sovereign nation, we have not only the right, but the moral obligation to defend and protect our people and our nation against people who wish to come here to commit crime.
And do us harm.
And do us harm, exactly. So I'm along the same line as you are. If you want to come here and commit crime and do us harm, you need to go. Don't let the doorknob hit you with a good Lord split you.
Fair enough. I mean, and that I think is the hard part of how this sorts out, right? And I love that you said we have a moral obligation to defend our borders. It has been said that show me a nation without borders and I will show you something that is not a nation, right? Basically, you cannot be a sovereign nation without secure borders. And here's why I say there is a moral obligation. I think back to what everybody in Southern Louisiana has pretty much gone through, where people there were 10 houses on my street that all had water problems. And what did everybody do? Everybody did in my neighborhood. It was beautiful to see. Everybody took care of their family. And then once they were stable and set, people started going and helping their neighbors. It's the same thing if you're a sovereign nation, right? Communities are just at scale. What we saw was our previous administration sending billions of dollars to help people who came here illegally at the expense of people in North Carolina who got flooded out of their homes and got $750 a person. And what's one of the first things that was done? All the funding for illegal immigrants was cut off. And what did they do? They redirected those funds. The current administration said, here's $2 billion all of a sudden for the people in North Carolina. You got to take care of your own first. I cannot give you what I don't have. And if everyone inside of this country is not taking care of those in this country first, we are giving to some by pulling it out of the mouths of others in need. That is a moral, ethical conundrum that cannot be resolved. And that's a problem.
Well, it's just like we have bunches of homeless veterans and citizens here.
Ring the bell. Ring the bell up at the bar. Ring the bell. Yes.
Yet we take our money and send to countries overseas hoping that they will be our friend. You can't buy friends. But we have our own citizens that need help that we're ignoring. I mean, and same with these people that are crossing our borders. If you go through a port of entry and you fill out the paperwork, you'll get a visa and you get to come in. I don't know if you've traveled overseas. I've gone to Central America and Dominican and that.
Yeah.
You go in, you fill out your little form. And some countries you get to enter free. Some countries you have to pay to enter. But you get to go. And it's the same here. If you're going to jump the fence and come across illegally, then you get nothing. You are a criminal because you committed an illegal act.
Father Joe, you want to chime in?
Yeah, I think, as Father Taj said, and we're not hearing this enough in the narrative and the discourse, is every nation does have a sovereign right to protect its borders. That's the fundamental obligation of a political society and public service. That has to be protected. You're going to start to see now what President Trump has done is a recovery of common sense. Because first of all, he's taken felons. Who could argue with that? Get rid of the felons. They shouldn't be here. They're disruptive. But then when you have to start to see also, even those who've come here and they've merged into the system, maybe paying taxes, whatever, we're going to end up being a balkanized society because the American way of life is not internalized. And then the other thing, another basic common sense, nobody cuts in line,
Yeah.
Nobody cuts in line. It's unfair to those who are following the law. And so, in all of this, but, Stephen A. Smith had I don't know if you saw it recently.
Wait, are you about to say Stephen A. Smith said something intelligent?
Oh, I mean, really and truly.
Because now I'm going to call you a liar.
No, from I
kidding.
tell you, from he and Sean Hannity are good friends, but opposite ends.
Yeah.
So, but he talked about the immigration issue, and he said, this is a problem created by the left. This is something Joe Biden created, and he's leaving this president in no other situation but to try to take care of, open up your borders to everybody coming in, millions and millions of people. And he said, so even a far left guy like Stephen A. Smith knows this is unconscionable. And this is a problem that somebody has to be the bad guy to deal with this.
But I think you hit the nail on the head and you just ran past it. I think you buried your headline. And it's this. We would become a balkanized society. Now, I know, Renee, it's a 3-syllable word. You don't know what it... No, but seriously, this is about, and this is what the push for immigration into the U.S. was about. That's what it was about. Because if you really go look into where these immigrants were coming from, look at the pictures. These people have cell phones.
Yeah.
These people have some of the most modern technology, yet we're told they're the poorest on the planet. They're the meek, they're the humble, but they're well-funded. They are well organized. They're putting together these caravans.
They're wearing Biden-Harris for president shirts.
Yo, Walker, you can take that finger and stick it. We're going to go a little long here. Thank you for giving me the thumbs up, which you can also stick somewhere else.
Yeah.
Anyway, this is the point. The point was always about destroying the American way of life. Because the American way of life, if you are under the age of 40, you might not know. If you're under the age of 25, the odds are heavily in favor of you not knowing what American exceptionalism was really about. American exceptionalism was about standing up, doing the right thing. American exceptionalism was about doing the work that someone else won't. American exceptionalism was about having the intestinal and testicular fortitude that other societies didn't have to take care of everyone in the United States. American exceptionalism was about picking yourself up from your own bootstraps and making something out of nothing, about taking an opportunity and transforming that opportunity into results, which whatever country you go to on the planet, and I'm not going to say this unequivocally, what I'm going to say is it is possible that there's another, but it's not probable that there is another. There is no other country on the planet where you can get an opportunity in the United States, be born at the lowest social level, and even have the chance to advance yourself based upon your own merit. And that's why other countries, that's why other people were funding so many immigrants to balkanize the United States. Because as long as the U.S. has that attitude, we are unequivocally the leader of the world and the shining beacon of freedom that we are intended to be. We're going to talk more about this because we got to get to the other executive order that taps into this and the one that almost probably got me in trouble in the second segment of the show right after this break on Implicit Bias. Final segment of hour one on this week's episode of Implicit Bias. Look, if you've missed any of this episode so far, I tell you, you can go find it wherever you get your podcasts, Apple, Google, Spotify. I tell you to find us on our socials, find us on X, find us on YouTube, find us on Facebook. I don't often say this, especially on the air. This is a good show. If you get into this conversation and you hear something that you like, you've probably missed something of significant substance because we've got some great guests here this week. Trust me, go back, find it, like, subscribe, because you don't want to miss on the occasion when we actually put out something that is really worth listening to. Every now and then we do. All right, so the crew that's here, as I kick my microphone, the crew that's here is Louisiana's only certified master tobacconist. He's only one of, 15 in the world. Rene Girard, he's in the chair like mine. At the bar, Father Taj Glaude, Father Joe Campion. We're double priesting it at the bar, and we left the last segment talking about immigration and why The desire was to destroy American exceptionalism. And Father Glaude, you had something you wanted to chime in, a line from a song that really spoke to you with regards to why people were coming to America and what American exceptionalism and the ability to turn an opportunity into something in this country.
Right. James Brown, of all people, the
Oh, yeah.
Godfather soul himself.
Godfather of Soul.
In the 60s, made a song about America and about living in America long before he made the one that was in Rocky IV. But throughout the song, he speaks through it to the background of music. But there's one part of that song that always stuck with me. And I actually have this record, by the way. But he says, when I started out as a shoe shine boy, every word I said, I meant. But name me any other country where you can start out as a shoe shine boy and shake hands with the president.
It's true. You know what that means? That means that we actually need, there's something, it's going to be the next addendum to the Mr. Lester's TSPL. We need the James Brown celebrity hot tub. Say hot, right? Because it's hot in the hot tub. Hot. Right? Yeah.
Is it wet?
Somebody, yeah. We're gonna have to walk. We're gonna make Walker in the back. Walker, anytime I say hot, you say yeah. That's gonna be one of the things you have to do. But it's so incredibly true, right?
Yeah.
Not another country on the planet where you can start out as a shoe shine boy and shake hands with the most powerful man on the planet.
And not just necessarily shake hands, but actually become a CEO or president of a company we were talking earlier, Central America, you have two classes, the haves and the never wills. You have people that have stuff and people that, no matter how hard they work, won't get to that level.
Now, this is a really important call out because the ability to work your way up,
Yeah.
right, is the point to
That's the way
this
America works.
country.
Yes.
And it's why those people still want to come here.
They're coming here because they've heard of the land of the big PX.
Yeah.
And just so if you want to look it up, the song is titled America is My Home.
And here's the beauty of this. This is why it's so important. And this actually ties into the other story, the one that I said almost got me in trouble. It's because they recognize if they come here and work of their merit, they can achieve more than if they don't,
Yeah.
right?
Where they're
it
at.
means they can grow because where they're at, no matter how hard they work, they
It's-
never get more.
Right.
But here, if you are willing to work hard, you don't have to be a genius. Renee can barely spell his own name. He's had his own business for 20 years.
Yeah, but
it's 4 letters.
My name is short. I can't do it. It's 4 letters. So I'm good on that.
I hate to say this. It's actually 3 letters, right?
Well,
It's
yeah, it's one letter
3
twice.
yeah, 1 letter twice.
But the philosophy of America, the principle of America, is that every American has an equal opportunity.
Yes.
It's not going to be the equal outcome, but you have the opportunity to make the best of yourself.
So, Father
Yeah.
Taj, now I have to ask you about the story that almost got me in trouble.
Only if I have an answer.
Well, it's this because another executive order destroyed affirmative action as established by Lyndon Baines Johnson. So Donald Trump, within days, came out, wrote an executive order that basically rescinded affirmative action quotas in government hiring and things of this nature, and really, destroyed it across the board. Your thoughts on that, because you probably have a different perspective on that than we do, or maybe you don't. I don't know.
First of all, let me say these 2 words. Thank God.
Okay, why?
Because, and I don't apply this just to Black people, but every race.
Mhm.
What affirmative action basically says is that you're too dumb to get an education to work for what you have on your own. So we're gonna do by law, put you where we think you need to be.
Can I get a witness from the congregation? No, I've always believed this as well, right?
Exactly.
Essentially, it's, well, we know you can't do it on your own. We know that you can't achieve on your own. So we're going to force the other kids to pick you first. I mean, I often think that life is basically a schoolyard game of dodgeball. And it always will be. At its utmost level, it always will be, right? If you're too old, too slow, you're not going to get picked first.
Right.
If you're the kid who can throw the ball the hardest and you can move the fastest, you are going to get picked first. But the beauty of the game of dodgeball that is life is none of us are stuck there like we are as kids. You know, if you're a 7-year-old boy trying to play dodgeball with a bunch of 12 and 13-year-olds, you're going to get picked last and you're going to get hit first. And there's nothing you can do in that moment to change that. But if someone sits down in an interview and says, you know, you need this educational qualification, you need this, if you develop this, you might not get it right there, but you can go get it. You can go do it. And to that point, Father, it always felt like that they said, even if we tell you what you need, you still aren't smart enough, sharp enough, bright enough to do it, and you never will be.
Now, if I could say this, just from my own personal
Yeah.
experience, affirmative action did absolutely nothing to help me in seminary. In fact, affirmative action didn't get me into the seminary. I had when I actually got accepted in this seminary by the grace of God, I had to work my butt off. Was I the brightest student? No, I wasn't. Did I graduate summa cum laude? No, I didn't. But I worked every day without any help from anybody. I didn't ask for help. I did have some support. Not to say that I didn't have support. I had
Right.
many people supported me. And that's what motivated me to keep going, despite everything that was against me.
Now, and I do want to offer this caveat. There was probably a time in this country when affirmative action might have had some sustenance and sustenance in the culture of the country, right? Because there was a time when, for some people, just getting in the door was tough. And that is the truth.
some
You
people,
can't hide from it.
it was impossible for some people to get into the door.
And that's wrong.
Right.
That is flat out wrong. But where we are today, I think we've gotten past that. And it's now only an issue if we make it an issue. Father Joe, we got to go quick because
Okay.
Walker's telling me we got
I
to
was
wrap.
just going to say that, I was ordained with the Josephite Fathers. We work in the African American community. So, and as Father Taj said, there was no quota systems. You had to do it by merit. I am glad you brought up the history because you used the analogy of a dodgeball team. Well, sometimes you're not even on the team because of color. of your
Correct.
skin. Now in our society, 2025, this has to go by the wayside. It has divided people. It's created a segregation. Asians have been put out because of their excellence.
Yes.
We cannot have a society that is going to have quotas and try to say they're rectifying a social problem of racism. Merit. If we had strict quota systems, what would the NBA look like?
Yeah,
and
well,
the NFL.
Well, and we got to wrap on that. We're going to come back. Trust me, hour two's always more fun because we'll get into second weekly whiskeys and things like that. Stick around. Find us. If we're not on an hour two, call your radio station. Tell them you want to hear us. We'll be right back. Hour two of Implicit Bias is just always so much more fun. It's because we've had a chance to maybe get in a rhythm. We're not starting out a whole new show. Let's be honest, it's because the crew has probably had like 5 or 6 weekly whiskeys by now, and they're just a little more fluid, maybe is the word. I'm your host, Kevon Bordelon. Welcome back into Implicit Bias, where we solve the problems of the world one weekly whiskey at a time. We've got a great crew for you here this week in the Mr. Lester's TSPL at the bar. In front of Father Joe Campion, what is available at Mr. Lester's, their Whiskey Showcase Special. is sitting on the bar. It is the Forbidden Series out of Bardstown and Blue Note Manor. $15 a pour, $30 for the flight of 3. Let's just say that's a deal.
It's well worth it.
It is more than well worth it. What's the saying from, what is it, Total Recall? I'd buy that for $30. Yeah. That it's that good. It is just that good. You also heard the voice of Renee Girard, Louisiana's only certified master tobacconist. So Renee, I'm going to put you on the spot because we're kind of in that transition, and we're not like transitioning. It's that transition from January to February.
There's 2 genders. That's it.
Well, by executive order.
Yes.
Yeah. But there's also a bridge between January and February, and our January cigar of the month, which was the Amazon Basin.
Right.
I'm going to put you on the spot. Do you have a cigar of the month for February?
No, because we're not quite in February
when
yet.
this episode
Yeah,
airs,
but
it's going
it'll
to be
be like
February 1st,
Yeah, so
which is technically in February.
Yeah, but we haven't gotten those cigars in yet.
Oh, so you only do it with cigars that you have in. Oh,
Well, yeah, because I'm not going to talk about something I don't have, because then people are going to come and, where's that cigar? We don't have it yet.
Well, you're out of Amazon Basins already? I mean, there's nothing else.
No. We still have some. We still have
okay.
a couple of boxes left. I
Okay.
mean, and it's a one and done thing. So, it won't see it again till next year, but you can still come get it till I run out.
Okay, till you run out. That is Renee Girard, Louisiana's only certified master tobacconist. We affectionately call him the certified wizard of tobacco. And yes, he does walk around with a wand and thinks that he's got power. Anyway.
And I have the hat, too.
And you have the hat, too. At the bar, Father Joe Campion, we already told you about him. The samples that are sitting in front of him from Mr. Lester Steakhouse. And to Father Joe's right is Father Taj Glaude. They are both veterans here of Implicit Bias. We're thrilled to have y'all back in the show. Y'all think the new digs in hour 2 are going to be a little more fun? Okay, so Father, for a lot of our audience, this is also an audible medium. Like just the thumbs up doesn't help. The video side, they can see it.
Well, I certainly give this 2 thumbs up. If I had 2 more thumbs, I'd put them up 2.
So we'd have 4. Yeah, math is hard. If I had 2 more thumbs, you wouldn't have pinkies? I'm trying to figure out what's going on here, right?
Here's the reason I haven't used math in over 20 years.
Oh, yikes. Okay, so first of all, have you guys had a chance to sample Father's, the whiskeys over there, or you're gonna get into them now? I see how this goes. Okay, so additional.
Taj, you got a Bluestone, right?
Okay, so
How
the
is it?
Bluestone. Oh, Father Taj, you have the Bluestone. What do you think of it?
He'll drink anything.
Well, not just anything, but this one actually has a stronger aroma.
It's a little more flavorful. I would agree.
Very flavorful. It's not as smoky as the Elijah Craig, but it's just as smooth.
So here's the really interesting part. That Bluestone Manor is 80 proof. That Elijah Craig, we know 121.2.
Exactly.
Which is a really interesting drink because the Bluestone Manor really, it is flavorful. It is robust. I actually like it a lot.
So what's the age on
It is
that
robust.
Bluestone?
I don't even know if there's an age statement. I believe, Renee.
Let me look in the
I
book.
believe it's a blend.
Ah, okay.
So, yeah, Renee's going to go back in the Implicit Bias Whiskey Tasting Journal, take a look at it, see what it is. What I'm going to say is this Elijah Craig, as it's opened up, as I'm on my second pour, really sits well.
5 years.
5 years. Okay, so 5 years on the Bluestone Manor, which a 5-year sit is
Smooth. And a 10-year sit at 121 is smooth. So
no. A 5-year sit is smooth. A 10-year sit at 121 is smooth.
smooth.
It's
Yeah,
smooth,
okay.
right?
I would give you that.
Am I right, Father?
Anything more than that is smooth.
Yeah, I'm just waiting on you to say, eat more chicken. Anyway.
down here we say eat more possum.
Yeah. Okay, so let's talk about something that is actually right now sitting on about 11 years. You know, it was highly disconcerting to a lot of people. And we actually have confirmation from Speaker Mike Johnson that there's going to be people looking into this. That as Joe Biden was walking out the door, the pardons were flying everywhere. I don't mean like everywhere. I mean like ERRY, right? Everywhere. You got a pardon. I'm surprised I didn't get a pardon because Lord knows I'm sure I've done something, but everybody got a pardon. I mean, it was like a stimulus check. It seemed like he was just signing them and handing them out.
Well,
But the interesting part, go ahead, Renee.
well, the thing is, I don't think Joe knew what he was signing. They were just putting things in front of him and he just signed. But
Okay.
they supposedly it was like 2,000 pardons
Oh.
before the 20 minutes before the change of
It's-
command.
It's over 8,700 total pardons. Walker, I think, just lost his lunch over there. He's upset.
he just dropped it.
Yeah.
He just
But here's the one that I really want to talk about. The one that may have created more of a problem than he already had was the one that I think people were most upset about.
Hunter.
No. I mean, look, the tapes are out there on Hunter.
Right.
If you want to see what Hunter's done, if you want to see,
And he filmed it himself, so it's his own tapes.
I mean,
Boy, talk about self-incrimination.
if you want to see everything Hunter's done, if you want to see, and I'm sorry for those of you out there who are going to hear this, if you want to see everything God gave Hunter, it's all out there.
No, I don't want
No,
to.
look, you got to be proud of something. That's all
I'll
I'm
take
saying.
your word for it.
You got to be proud of something. That's all I'm saying.
Yeah.
Anyway, the big one to me was Fauci.
Yeah.
And here's why. Fauci is director of the NIH.
Been there. For long.
Fauci was saying, I'm here to help people. Fauci. So
the
first of
highest
all,
paid civil servant in all of the United States government.
so first of all, Fauci was there as a, and I'm going to use the dreaded air quotes. I hate air quotes, but I'm going to do it here. The dreaded public servant.
yeah.
What did he do that needs a pardon? And the bigger question is, why did he need said pardon? All the way back to 2014.
Well, because he was funding what is the term they used?
Gain of function.
Gain of function. He was funding that when he was told not to, and he said we're not. He was using our tax money to fund gain of function.
Go ahead,
And then-
Father.
And then lied about it.
He funded it. He lied about it. He weaponized it.
Exactly.
Yeah.
And this is
That's
And
my
this-
opinion. But go look it up. There's a reason I got that
But-
opinion.
I remember that. But this is also a man who claims to be a public servant, but never had a medical practice, never saw a single patient a day in his life.
There's an old saying, right? And when we talk on this show, the monologue was get uncomfortable. There are a lot of people who've been uncomfortable since Donald Trump took over as president again. And you look at it and go, maybe you need to be uncomfortable because you got awfully comfortable thinking you were the majority. And guess what? You're not. It got proven by Donald Trump winning the popular vote, right? You're not the majority. You need to be uncomfortable and realize that little comfort zone you've been living in where you tune into ABC, CBS, NBC, MSNBC, MSDNC, CNN, Vox, you tune into your little world, right? And that's all the news you watch. It gets real comfortable there. It gets real comfortable listening to that echo chamber. And the term for it is confirmation bias. I think, so I'm going to go listen to someone who's going to tell me and reinforce what I think. And that to me becomes my world. Maybe those people need to get uncomfortable. And maybe a big tell is that Anthony Fauci just got a pardon dating back to 2014. When was Biden president in 2014?
No. Nope.
Was Trump president in 2014?
Nope.
Barack Hussein Obama.
Say that again. Who was president?
Barack Hussein Obama.
My point being, Joe Biden wasn't president. Trump wasn't president. But Biden needs to pardon Fauci that far back. Here's the other big question. And this is one where I'd love to have a criminal lawyer who could answer.
You're talking about a lawyer who represents criminals, not a criminal that's a lawyer.
Or a prosecutor. Correct. Yes.
Not Saul. You don't want to call Saul.
No, we're not doing Better Call Saul here. Here's the question that I have, though. Biden hands out a pardon dating back to 2014. What does that inherently mean? Anyone?
First of all, fundamentally, I think pardons can only come from Jesus. I'm being a priest now.
Agreed, and I'll take that.
I don't understand pardons at all this side of heaven.
Well, pardons under man's law, not
right,
God's law.
Right. So even that, I don't understand for the life of me what a preemptive pardon is. Pardons come once you have been found guilty, and justice. So a pardon is to eliminate what justice demands.
Correct.
He hasn't been tried yet, and so
has he been accused?
No.
Okay, so what does that mean?
Exactly. But
so what does that mean about Joe Biden? That means what?
He knows there's a culpability here.
Ring the bell. No, ring the bell. That means he's aware of a crime.
That's right.
That means he is aware of a crime.
Same with Liz Cheney, but
he's aware of a crime
fundamentally unfair
that has been committed, that has not been prosecuted yet,
or hadn't been accused.
Hasn't been accused. Which, in fact, in my thought process, attorneys, please fact check us out here, would make you an accomplice by issuing a preemptive pardon on a crime that only you know about. You, therefore, are a co-conspirator, I believe would be the term.
Well, and you know what's interesting is that, in fact, I saw the interview with Trump with Hannity, and Trump made that comment.
Biden didn't pardon himself.
He pardoned everybody but himself.
And Nancy.
Oh, yeah, he didn't.
Love you, Nancy.
He didn't.
No, he didn't.
Oh, man.
But he did give her the Presidential Medal of Freedom.
Which means what?
That and 50 cents get you a half a cup of coffee.
I was about to say, and I'm supposed to be impressed?
Yeah.
Look at the people.
I sure wasn't.
Look at the list of people that he gave the Presidential Medal of Freedom to.
Soros.
George Soros.
Soros can buy his own.
if that's the company that I am keeping,
oh yeah,
and I get the Presidential Medal of Freedom, I'm turning it down. Yep.
Oh yeah, I'm giving it back.
Who else are you giving it to? Because if you're giving it to them, I don't want to be associated with those people. I appreciate you wanting to do it. Thank you, but no thank you, because you are who you hang out with, and I don't want to hang out with them.
But I have to say,
it cheapens the medal.
It absolutely does. Father?
I'm sorry, I didn't mean to cut you off.
No.
This goes to how stupid the left thinks we are.
Oh, they think we're stupid.
Oh, yeah.
Oh, we are. Oh, I know.
You were about to say we are.
Sorry.
No, it's okay.
But this goes to show how stupid they think we are, because issuing all of these preemptive pardons for people who have never even been accused of a crime, much less convicted, knows it proves beyond any reasonable doubt that they are aware
of crime.
Of crime, that they are guilty of a crime.
Here's the beautiful part of this. What I really love about where we are and where we've landed and how the pendulum has swung. It's this. There was a time 2-3 years ago when they would have said, right? The people who want to control you, the people in power, the elitists who want to make sure that you buy the brainwashing they're putting out through the media, and they would have had the media say it. That's how it would have come out. They would have said, and they're saying it now. They would have said, well, we have to pardon them because we believe that the current administration is going to go after its enemies and persecute its enemies. The beautiful part of this now is that no one gives a anymore. Everybody looks at it and goes, don't give me that line of BS. It's what I tell my kids all the time, especially as they got older. Son, don't bolt a bolt. I know what you're doing. I know how you're doing it. I know your playbook, and I don't care. And it is beautiful to finally see the rest of the country wake up and go, are you trying to tell that lie again? Because that doesn't fly.
I tell my parishioners the same thing.
OPP behind the pulpit. And by the way, just so y'all know, that is the Opelousas pistol packing priest. Don't misquote that. Just because your brain in the gutter does not mean that we are. Right, Father?
In the famous words of Shaft, you're damn right.
But that's the whole thing, especially the Fauci pardon to me. Now, what I really love about the Fauci pardon was they're playing checkers.
Oh, yeah.
And this was the beautiful part of this, because when I saw it, I went, they just went from frying pan to fryer. Now, we do not have an extradition deal with Russia. But remember the things that Fauci said and the things that Fauci did. He didn't just preach in this country. He preached to other countries.
Shit, around the world.
And if you told people to do things that you knew were harmful all around the world, we have a term for that. We actually used it in the Nuremberg trials. Anybody know what we call those kind of crimes?
Treason.
Well, treason is just inside the U.S. subverting the United States government and the will of the people and the Constitution. Crimes against humanity.
Yes.
The Soviet Union wants Fauci for crimes against humanity. Now, I don't know about you. I have no desire to be put in jail. I just don't. But if I had to pick a country to go to jail in,
Oh, I would go in the U.S.
I'd much rather go to jail in the U.S. than go to jail in Russia. I'm just saying.
Siberia is cold.
Oh,
You thought it was cold here during the snowpocalypse.
yeah. That's the snowpocalypse. Father,
Yeah.
real quick, and then we got a break.
This is what I would say to Russia. If you can promise
Guilty verdict.
that, not only that you would punish Fauci by putting him in a 6x6 cell, all white, with no windows, no access to the outside world, give him only a mat to sleep on and a can to go to the bathroom in, and feed him only one slice of bread and a glass of water a day, I'd say, hand him over.
Well, I tell you what, we hope you don't hand us over. We hope you keep us around for more of Hour 2 of Implicit Bias. Always more fun. We'll be right back. Hour 2 of Implicit Bias continues, which means more weekly whiskey. It means more topics. It means solving more problems of the world. It means hopefully more of your enjoyment for your favorite Saturday radio show / podcast / video podcast / whatever it is that hopefully gets you some enjoyment out of this.
//
Yeah, keep going, Renee. That's what I thought. That's Renee Girard. He's Louisiana's only certified master tobacconist. Walker, say hello.
Hello.
Thank you. In the corner, he is just sitting there trying to produce the show with audio. That's Walker Griffon. He is our producer. And then at the bar, oh, Renee wants the bottle. At the bar,
That's dangerous.
we've got two priests because we need them this week. It's been a long week here in Southern Louisiana. In the Mr. Lester's TSPL, they are keeping us as Catholic, as Christian as possible. Father Taj Glaude, Father Joe Campion, tons of fun, and even Tug is off to the side somewhere as we record this episode. Okay, so we talked about the executive orders. We talked about all the things that have come out. These are just a couple of things I've got to get sentiments on. I got to get your thoughts on because, man, it's all happening so fast. So let's start here. We now have a bill introduced that would abolish income tax in the United States. Who wants to start?
Did they actually introduce it, or I've heard they've been talking about it for a long time?
It's been filed.
Oh, okay.
And Trump has started the external revenue service
Yeah.
to go collect money from all the countries that have basically been
well, the
milking
tariffs.
money from us forever?
I mean, the
It would be
external
tariffs.
would be collecting tariffs. Where if you look at history,
oh, it's been done before.
McKinley, who is Trump's favorite president, because we survived on tariffs before that. We did not have an income tax until after or during World War One.
My understanding is the income tax was actually put in place. And it's funny how it all ties back to, and I'm going to move the mic just a bit to this stuff, right? Yeah. So there was something that went away that was a massive revenue generator. Say it, Father.
Prohibition.
No, into the microphone. Come on, you know how this works.
Prohibition. I don't know how the
Okay.
Irish clergy could not take that. That's why it ended.
Well, there was so much tax revenue generated from alcohol that the United States actually had to say, all right, we got to find a way to supplement that. One of the ways that I'm told we supplemented it was with the income tax.
Yeah, I mean, we survived on tariffs before that.
So think about the fact that, number one, this has been done before. There is precedent for this. Not
course.
president, precedent.
But
Two different things.
we weren't spending that kind of money that we are spending now either, though.
Well, that's the big rub, right? Which Trump has actually put, a 90-day moratorium on all foreign aid,
Yep.
which is another big one. I mean,
And he's firing a lot. Well, he's not firing. He's doing away with positions. He's putting them on paid leave right now, but because he's got to look at the legality with civil service laws and everything, if he can fire them or not.
you want to really grow the federal government. And I know nobody wants to grow the federal government, but do you want to have collectively more revenue for America to use for the right reasons? Do you know how to do it?
Private sector.
Private sector. Renee,
Get rid of a lot of government employees.
how about this one? How about you give all the money that people who are producing and making back to them and just tax the new stuff they buy?
Yeah.
I totally agree. Now, in the
Flat tax, I guarantee you, and there's an introduction for this as well, but they want 23%. You probably need about 12.
Yeah.
You probably need about half of that. If you get a 12% flat tax on all new items only, now I get to choose how much in tax I actually pay, because now I get to decide, do I really want that new car or not?
Well, what gets me also is even the illegal economy
Has to pay at that
will
point.
pay
Yep.
sales taxes.
Yeah.
I mean, and it goes back to when Herman Cain ran for president. He had a 9% program to where it was a 9% flat tax across the board.
Here's
everyone thinks that FDR during the Depression, because he put in all these government programs, got us out of the Depression, which it was the war and it was the income generated by private industry.
Somebody ring the bell. Somebody ring the bell. Somebody ring the bell. Yes.
And like you say, if you're gonna, you were not talking about income tax as flat. You're talking about purchasing.
I am talking about
Sales tax.
doing away
Sales tax,
completely
absolutely.
with income tax.
Right. Exactly. When you have money in your household, you're going to spend it wisely. And so,
Or you won't spend it wisely.
well,
I mean, think about after Hurricane Katrina. You had people who did not have homes in a large building 120 miles away.
I lived
They got
there.
they got a $2,000 check. And what were they doing? I don't have a house to live in, but I'm buying that 80-inch H-screen TV or HD TV, right? And it's like, wait, what?
And
You
bring
don't
it,
have a
bring
plug-
it to the Cajun
Yeah,
Dome.
and they were bringing it to the arena where they're sleeping, which is basically
But-
a mass shelter.
Yes.
but Kavan, when you have income, even if it's recklessly spent, take the last 4 years with this high inflation. And good friends of mine who run gyms,
Yeah.
they tanked because you don't have that extra income to pay. You have to prioritize, and then things got to get cut. If you got rid of all that, if you let people have their own money, they're going to spend it.
Here's
And-
what I
and
really-
it generates more money in society.
Here's what I really love about it, though. They may not spend it wisely, but you know what? It's their decision. And they get to live with the impact of their own decision. You want to learn get uncomfortable by making 3 or 4 bad decisions. Some of us learn without ever having to make the bad decision. That's ridiculously rare. Some of us learn by making the bad decision once and going, I'm not doing that again. Some of us make the bad decision over and over and over and over and over and over and over again. And usually they are very quick to hear terms like, you have the right to remain silent. What you say can and will be used against you. They know that by heart because they've made a lot of times multiple bad decisions, right? And I'm not saying everybody who's ever been arrested and heard Miranda rights has made multiple bad decisions, but we know that rates of recidivism, we know that there are people out there who make those. But guess what? I respect you and every other human being on this planet enough. I think you have enough human dignity for me to say it's still your decision to make. Not a lot of people do. Father Taj, you wanted to chime in?
You know, it really goes to the point that, and this is the sentiment that I believe that all American people share, that we're sick and tired of the government. Excuse me, I just got back from Texas. The dry cold on week. My voice is paying for it. But we're all sick and tired of all of these elites telling us what is best for us with our money.
Yes. That's a great call out. Ring the bell. That's a great call out. I'm going to take your money and tell you what's best for you.
Just let us keep 100% of our money and let us learn from our mistakes. The best, now, don't get me wrong. I'm by no means a Star Wars fan. I like Star Wars, but I'm not big on it.
Okay.
But Yoda couldn't have put it better in, I think it was The Last Jedi, if I'm not mistaken. He said he was telling Luke Skywalker.
That's Return of the Jedi. That's fine.
But I actually think it was The Last Jedi. It was one of the most recent ones where his ghost returns.
Oh, okay. Okay, I'm about to say because Yoda's been dead for a while. Anyway.
Yeah. But this is one of my favorite clips from that movie when he tells Luke Skywalker, when he's lamenting his weakness and his lack of wisdom, he says, "You didn't heed my words, did you?" He said, "Pass on what you have learned, including your failures."
Yes.
The greatest teacher failure is.
Yep.
And it is.
No doubt.
We learn from
We learn
We in
more
our
from
right-
failure than we do
Exactly.
from success. Absolutely.
failure makes us stronger if we learn from it.
I completely agree. Okay, so there's one last story that we're going to get to in this segment. Walker, we're going to go a little long. Or maybe I should save this one. You know what? I'm going to save this one because this is going to be a longer conversation because it's probably going to have a little more debate. Trust me, you don't want to miss debate on implicit bias, especially when we're a few weekly whiskeys in. More Implicit Bias Radio right after this. Hour 2 of Implicit Bias. Walker, is this the penultimate segment already? I think it is.
It is.
Wow. Implicit Bias Radio, the penultimate segment. That means it's the second to last segment of this particular week. I'm your host, Kevon Bordelon. The crew is here. We've got a great crew for you here in the TSP Hall. You heard the voice of Walker, so you're welcome if you're watching on video. I'm keeping the camera away from him right now. I'm going to make it happen, and I'm going to apologize now. I'm sorry. Anyway, at the bar, we have Father Taj Glaude, who just gave the sign of the cross. We have Father Joe Campion. And in the chair like mine, Renee Girard, who has graduated to the big chair this week.
Yeah,
Renee,
the
is
adult
it
chair.
comfy?
It's comfy.
It's comfy?
I
Yeah,
like
that's what I
this
thought.
chair.
Okay, so we have tasted weekly whiskeys from Mr. Lester's here in the TSPL. Available, the Forbidden Series, Bluestone Manor, all $15 a pour, $30 for the flight. It's the only 5-star restaurant between New Orleans and Houston. And I'm going to say this because it is the 1st of February when this is going to air on terrestrial radio in Lafayette. I don't know if they have anything available for Valentine's Day. I don't know.
I would think that they wouldn't at this point.
But if you want Valentine's Day to be right, if you can, call. Go to Mr. Lester's. Get a hotel room. if you're married.
Well, you're gonna need a hotel room because after that meal,
You're going to
need a nap.
Yeah, but if you get the hotel room after dinner and it's Valentine's Day, y'all might know like brown chicken, brown cow, how that goes. Anyway, it's Valentine's Day. Anyway, so okay, that's what we're talking about. We were actually talking in the last segment about just all the different things that have come about, and I teased there was one thing, and I'm not sure where I fall logically on this. A bill was introduced to allow Donald Trump to run for a third term as U.S. president. Now, as we know, typical law states 2 terms, done. I say typical because there is precedent in the past, but it was during a physical, kinetic war. I'm not saying we're not at war right now.
Well,
that's a whole nother discussion. Because the argument can be made, but it's not a kinetic war necessarily.
Well, see, there was no law until FDR. Before FDR, there was no law on how many terms you could serve.
Ring the bell, please. Renee, I forgot you were there.
I was there. I mean, George Washington served 2 terms
And walked away.
and he walked away.
And they
he
asked
figured
him
that was enough.
Well, they actually asked
They
him to
wanted
stick
him
around.
to serve more.
They basically wanted to
I was
make
there
him the
too.
king.
You
They
know,
wanted to make him the king, and he said no.
No.
He said that is not what should happen.
right. I mean, literally until FDR, there was no law, and that's after FDR is when they came up with the rule, two terms, not consecutive, not congruent, not
You get 8 years as the
you
president.
get 8
period.
years, and when you get after the 8 years, you're done.
Now, here's a little trivia for you.
Okay.
Who was actually the first president to serve 2 non-consecutive terms?
I seem to remember this because it was mentioned a lot with regards to Trump. Was it McKinley?
No,
No,
Cleveland.
Grover
Cleveland. Okay.
I was
But-
there too.
I was about to say, you've been there for all of them.
Yeah.
We're aware of this. We know that you hit puberty right about the time Washington walked away. I mean, come
No,
on.
no. That was during Jefferson's era.
no, but you're right. There was no limits to how many terms the president could serve until
How many
Franklin
terms did
Delano
FDR
Roosevelt.
serve?
4.
Let's say it was 4.
It was
Hit
4
the
terms,
bell.
and it was 4 terms, and then of course he died in office.
Right.
So he didn't finish his 4th term.
Right.
That's when Harry S. Truman came in.
So one of the reasons and one of the things that I would love to see, because I believe it is perhaps the greatest flaw that our forefathers missed when building the Constitution, when setting up the government that essentially we have today, was setting term limits in place.
Yeah.
I mean,
Especially in Congress also.
I mean, let's be honest.
You know, I agree with you, but I do think it was implicit from the no pun intended, but it was implicit from those founders, just like George Washington. Nope, this is enough. That's what most of the constitutionalists did. That in their behavior, because of the King George, that there should be you do your service and you move back to your house and get out of politics. So it was implicit. It wasn't made explicit in the Constitution.
And
That was a tragedy.
but that's where I think the miss is,
I
right?
agree.
The
I
miss
agree.
was not putting it in writing.
I agree.
Because we are people. We are a messy species.
Right.
And we desire power.
Now,
greed is what hits it.
What's the 4 P's? Power, pleasure, prestige, and possessions. We seek all of them. And when you are in politics, you have access to all of them.
Yeah.
Father?
I'm sorry, Renee, I didn't mean to cut you off, but correct me if I'm wrong. Was there an amendment that imposed 2 terms?
I don't
term
believe
limits?
there is an amendment.
Actually, no, I think there's an amendment, but it's not just 2 terms. I think it's you can serve up to 10 years. You got to remember when John Kennedy died and Lyndon Baines Johnson took over, Lyndon Baines Johnson could run for 2 more terms, and he served out presidency for Kennedy.
less than
So
less than
it's-
2 years.
No, yes, but I think you
So
can
you
serve
can-
up to 10 years and less, but
Exactly.
you can't serve 3 terms.
Right.
And I'm an advocate for that at the federal level.
Yeah.
Even remember in this state of Louisiana, what Huey P. Long did, he just had a machine of corruption.
Well, look at
Okay, so here
look
you go.
at Edwin.
Here you go.
Yeah, absolutely.
I mean,
Yep.
you serve 2, you sit out 1,
so-
you serve 2 more.
So to answer the question, the 22nd Amendment to the United States Constitution limits the number of times a person can be selected to the office of president or elected to the office of president of the United States to 2 terms, sets additional eligibility conditions for presidents who succeed the unexpired terms of their predecessors. So you can only serve 2 elected
right.
terms. Now, I'm
For
gonna
example, Gerald Ford. He served the remainder of Nixon,
Yep.
and he was capable of running 2 more times.
He served the remainder of it as well,
right.
not just the reminder of it.
Reminder. Yeah, well, he reminded us of
He
it.
reminded himself.
That's Elijah
Look,
Craig
and
Yeah.
here's this is my big thing. My big thing is no. While you will always have people who have wealth running for these offices, because you can't do it. And man, am I talking with my hands? You can't do it if you don't have the money to do it. You just can't. You also don't want somebody who's got so much money they can sit there forever. That's not the point.
Right.
So I'm looking at this and going, man, serve your 2. Because in your second, you are off at light speed. I mean, when he said go to Mars, I was like, he might be going after what he's done, just accomplished and put into play and put onto the field of play. I'm going, well, Mars, he'll be at Mars in year 2 at this point. I mean, next thing you know, he'll be trying to find Uranus. I don't know. So it's like, whatever.
You're not right.
You know, in all honesty, with
Father. Oh my God, Father, I just realized what you were thinking. That's
Wait,
terrible.
Oh, wait, which father?
Both of you.
you know the thing is with
Go hear his
with
confession.
with Trump's term
It's not
now,
mine, it's yours.
Want to borrow my stole?
with Trump's terms now, it's almost a good thing that he sat out a term.
Oh, it's not almost. It is definitely, Renee,
Because
I agree.
I mean, he went in inexperienced at the swamp, and he trusted people that
Yep.
he shouldn't have. That it was obvious after the fact what happened. But
I
him
agree.
sitting out that term, he learned a lot of things, and when he came back in, he was ready. I mean, on day 1, in the first 3 hours, he signed 200 executive orders, most of them undoing what Biden did, but
Yeah.
then fixing things that needed to be done.
Dude, he got in there in that first term and went, it's hot in the hot tub. Right?
Yeah, sure,
and,
exactly.
And didn't realize just how hot it was. So
Yeah.
now he is more acclimated. I agree. He's off and running. And I believe in this term, he has the opportunity to get what he needs accomplished. We have one more segment. Walker has given me the finger, and I don't mean that finger, Father. I mean the 1-minute finger. We'll come back.
Father.
Both of you. We'll come back. More Implicit Bias Radio, wrapping up hour 2 right after this. Final segment of this week's episode of Implicit Bias Radio. I'm your host, Kevon Bordelon, and man, we have had more fun than we should be allowed to have in the top secret podcast layer presented by Mr. Lester Steakhouse, the only 5-star restaurant between New Orleans and Houston. We've got a great crew here. It's been tons of fun with Renee Girard, Louisiana's only certified master tobacconist. Our 2 priests doing everything they can to keep us as Christian and Catholic as possible. I know it's been a stretch, fathers.
I'm losing my religion being here.
Well played. Well, ring the bell. Ring the bell. Yeah. It's not my fault that it's Father Glaude who's making you do it, right? Yeah. It's not my fault that he's next to you.
Oh,
I'm
yeah,
sorry.
just blame me.
I think we
By the
need
way, at
both
the
of
end
the
of the
priests to keep us straight.
Yeah.
At the end of the show, we're all going to sing "We Shall Overcome."
Yeah.
What did I ever do to you?
Okay. So this last story is one that I was like, man, we have to talk about this. And I love to always take an opportunity to get away from some of the things that are more serious that could be a little more out there and could be a little more fun, yet could still have major implications. There are a lot of things that we have in our homes that are derived from serious use. What do I mean by that? The microwave that's in your home was developed by NASA. They were trying to figure out a way for astronauts to cook food so that when they were filming the moon landing somewhere in California, they would at least say, oh, look, see, we made the microwave, so it had to be real. I'm kidding. The reality is we get a lot of that technology, those advancements from things like that. What we don't realize is a lot of times that technology works in reverse. Things that are normal, someone who's maybe not so normal looks at and goes, oh, you know what I could do with this? Now, as the father of a daughter, I have developed a very specific hatred. And I can use the word hatred here because it's not directed at a person. It's directed at a thing, or millions, or billions, or trillions, or gazillions. Yes, they're all real numbers of things. And it's glitter. So for those of you who have not been down the great glitter rabbit hole, yeah, thanks, Father Taj. It's a fascinating story if you see it. So first of all, I did not know that the manufacture of glitter was essentially super double secret probation top secret. Right? I mean, there's only a couple of companies that do it.
It's a military secret.
Okay, I don't know that glitter is a military secret. How they manufacture it.
Well, the real uses. But
okay, so the number one customer of the two glitter manufacturers in the U.S.
And the reason why we have two is in case one of them has a problem, we have a backup.
It's the U.S. military.
Yes.
Okay, so I just can't help but wonder, after all of Trump's executive orders, if all of a sudden we're going to see the military stop using as much glitter because they're not fabulous anymore. I don't know.
I don't know. Wait, it's fabulous.
Thank you, Father. Thank you for taking me out of the frying pan and throwing yourself into it. Yeah, I love it.
That's what I live for.
But seriously,
only I can't get any blacker.
But seriously, I mean, okay, so the U.S. military is buying that much glitter?
You know how many airplanes we have?
We got a lot of them.
A lot. And you know how many of those airplanes have anti-missile technologies on them?
It could even be anti-radar technology.
Well,
I mean, it could be as simple because you've got the stealth fighter, you've got the stealth bomber.
Right.
You've got the F-22, you've got the F-33. All of them
35.
are 35.
Yeah.
All of them are stealth aircraft.
Yes.
Conventional radar cannot track those aircraft.
It's hard. They can be tracked, but it's very, very difficult.
Yeah, I don't disagree. My point being, you almost have to wonder, with glitter's reflective properties, if maybe there's glitter at play here?
Yeah. It is.
Okay, Father, you want to chime in?
And first of all, let me begin with, for the record, I hate glitter.
Oh, I hate glitter
with
as well.
a passion. So I agree with you on that. But, just knowing that the military is the biggest buyer of glitter is completely mind-blowing.
Agreed.
You would have never thought, I don't think anybody would have ever thought that glitter would be used in so many things as there is. Honestly, I wouldn't be surprised if
it's not used in it could be used in LED screens. I mean, you never know.
I wouldn't be surprised.
I didn't. Oh God, there's a bad joke here, and I want to say it. There's a bad joke here.
Go ahead.
There's a bad joke here. No,
you got
ahead.
two priests.
I'm
They can
getting
give you
egged on by two.
absolution.
Go ahead. You're implicit bias.
I didn't know that many strippers worked in the U.S. military. I'm sorry.
You never heard of tail hook? That's an old one.
I'm
But
sorry. I grew up in New Orleans. I spent a lot of time on Bourbon Street as a kid.
My condolences.
Yeah, I'm sorry.
Go to confession.
But I'm
No,
serious
but
here. I mean, so outside of that joke, seriously,
and it's also the one thing I really found mind blowing was the fact that the very man who invented glitter
this
was
is
the
the
very
big one.
same man
One of
who
them.
was involved was one of the men who was involved in the Manhattan Project.
So it almost makes you wonder if glitter is somehow utilized for its reflective properties
Yeah.
in nuclear warheads.
Yeah.
wouldn't be surprised.
I mean, it really wouldn't. Father Joe's got the mic. What's he going to say?
I am so baffled by this when you brought the topic up. I was like, glitter. I mean, like you say, that's Bourbon Street, New Orleans. That's
Okay,
that's
you just made-
cheerleaders and pom poms and
You just,
like, what are you
just
talking
made,
about?
Father, you just made me feel so much
Oh,
better
but
that
my
as
God,
you
I said,
know this
what
and
is
not
this
just
with-
me.
I just could not, all that glitters is
See,
not gold. I remember
No.
being raised on that quote, but no, really. I think you brought up an interesting point. I understand. I think glitter is fundamentally aluminum and shining material
Yes.
made it out.
Reflective. When I
Reflective. And that makes me wonder. I really do believe. And when off the show, you were talking about guns and suppressors and how they operate. I thought this is
Okay, so-
this is intriguing.
So
I gotta say.
Renee, talk about chaff that they use.
when I was a
for
kid,
anti-radar.
my dad was in the Air Force, and I grew up on Air Force bases. I remember as a kid, we actually put the icicles, the silver tinsel that
Yeah.
you put on your tree. We used chaff. My dad would get it from.
So for those
he
who don't
was-
know, what chaff is, if a missile is chasing and tracking a jet,
Or
they
actually
will release what's called chaff to or
or
just
on radar.
yeah.
Fighter aircraft and bomber aircraft, they have these tubes with, it looks like the icicles on your Christmas tree. And whenever they get a lock on, radar's locking on them, they will shoot chaff out and it just blots out the radar because the reflective properties
Yeah.
of the aluminum just wipes the radar out.
And it doesn't necessarily have to be glitter. It could be any
It's
kind
just
of
reflective.
metal.
So
Yes.
so all we're saying is this: if you've got a ton of glitter at your house, you never know when the U.S. military is going to show up and tell you, "We need your glitter."
Glad does.
What's that?
Father Glad has lots of glitter.
Oh,
at his
I
house.
don't want to know
Just
anything
saying,
more
just
about
saying.
that. If you want to know more,
Liar.
find us on our socials, X, YouTube, Facebook, wherever you get your podcast. Trust me, you don't want to miss any of your favorite Saturday, once a week radio show / podcast. It's Implicit Bias Radio. We'll see you in 7.